I get right to our Fox News contributor and George Washington law professor Jonathan Turley on this rapid expansion of Canadian government powers. Dying to know what you thought of it, Jonathan. Hello.
Well, I thought it was, hello, and I thought it was quite excessive. This is an act of civil disobedience. That is a standard tactic of groups going back to the civil rights movement even earlier to block bridges and streets, to do what was referred to as, quote, good trouble. And so the troubling aspect of what is coming out of the Prime Minister's office is that by this rationale, they could have cracked down on the civil rights movement. They could have arrested Martin Luther King. I mean, I think that the office needs to dial down, not just in its rhetoric, but the means that it is using. By freezing this money, what the government is doing is preventing other people from supporting a protest. These are Canadian citizens who've gone to their capital to engage in an act of civil disobedience. The government can clear the roads. They can arrest people who are blocking the roads. But they have gone to an extent here that treats these protesters as if they were terrorists.
He's doing this apparently in a bid to end the protests, but it only seems to be building their case, Jonathan. You've heard the truckers speaking out after it. Some of them say we're leaving our jobs just so we can continue with this convoy. It seems to have fired them up even more.
That's right. I mean, for people who are joining what they call a freedom convoy, the government is fulfilling the stereotype. It's fulfilling the fear that these truckers have that the government is becoming increasingly draconian, even authoritarian. And that's why these measures are so heavy-handed and unnecessary. You know, this is a prime minister who supported BLM protests. The BLM regularly takes over streets, blocks areas, even occupies areas. But you didn't have Prime Minister Trudeau declaring them to be terrorists or U.S. politicians for that purpose. I mean, it seems to me that these people feel marginalized and voiceless, and you're magnifying those feelings with these heavy-handed efforts. They had frozen millions of dollars in donations of people who want to support this cause.
I just wonder where do you think this all goes next? Seems like the obvious question, but I mean, we're in the second week of this now. I mean, and they have faced frigid temperatures, and they just keep on. And now Trudeau does this, and they seem to gain strength. I mean, where do you see this movement going, Jonathan?
Well, I'm more worried about where the government's going. Trudeau has used this as a reason to claim control over everything from banking to cryptocurrency. And it seems like a crisis that's being used to expand political power. But what really worries me is that the media, the government, have marginalized these protesters. I favor vaccinations, but I share something with these truckers in the sense of a right of free speech and association. It troubles me how they're being treated, and it's going to magnify their sense of marginalization. And that's when people get angry and they get detached from their government. I think the Trudeau government has gone the wrong way in addressing these truckers and their cause. They can demonize them, but all they will do is marginalize them, and they will get very little effort at any type of consensus or dialogue.
You know, it's remarkable what you just said. We've heard from so many of those truckers. I've had them on our program in the afternoon, who many of them say, just like you, they favor vaccines. They don't like the overreach. And it's an interesting parallel to a message we've seen here. Yeah, go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, and the problem is that, you know, all these avenues are closed off to these truckers. On the internet, they are being banned and they're being vilified. Well, if you close the information superhighway, some of these people are going to just go to the highway. They're going to get into their trucks as their only way of voicing these concerns. And I think the media bears some responsibility for this. They have cut off these protesters. They won't give an equal treatment and a voice to their cause. And I think that they have magnified the tensions. And the Trudeau government has just thrown gasoline on this fire.
I think it's fair. Jonathan Turley, Professor, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.